In the magnificent sheepskin-bound chronicles of the kingdoms of Rohan and Gondor, the battle at Helm's Deep is praised as the greatest epic. It was a place where noble men, with silver swords and shining armor, stood side by side to repel a mindless pack of bloodthirsty monsters from the Valley of Isengard. Mankind gives itself the right to be the center of morality. They call their enemies monsters. They call the act of slaughtering their enemies a purification. But history always has two sides, and its hidden side is often tinged with a much darker shade of blood. If we flip the lens, stepping over the corpses mercilessly hacked and slashed at the Deeping Wall, to delve deep into the mind of a surviving Uruk-hai warrior, a naked and thorny picture will emerge. Today, let us listen to the monologue from the dark. To the proud Uruk-hai species, humans are not noble. In their eyes, mankind are weak, cowardly, undisciplined creatures, and most terrifyingly of all, mankind hides a sickening cruelty under the guise of heroes. To understand the perspective of an Uruk-hai, we must completely shed the image of hunchbacked, cowardly orcs shrinking from the sunlight. The Uruk-hai are not inferior monsters. Under the molding hands of the white wizard Saruman, they are the pinnacle of biological evolution in Middle-earth. They were not born to be slaves cowering in mines, but designed to be perfect warriors. They know no fatigue, fear no sunlight, are not swayed by petty desires. In their veins flows the blood of iron discipline and absolute devotion to a single purpose, establishing a new order for the world. When 10,000 Uruk-hai troops marched to Helm's Deep, they carried a fierce pride. They believed they were carrying out a cleanup mission. In their ideology, the Kingdom of Rohan was a dilapidated organization of weaklings, humans who only knew how to sing, drink, bicker, and divide each other all day. Mankind were faulty cogwheels in the machine of nature, and the Uruk-hai was the premium metal forged to smash those rusted gears. But when the battle truly began, the pride of these perfect warriors collided with a shocking truth about the tactics of noble mankind. Under the pouring rain of Helm's Deep, humans did not deploy their troops onto the plain to fight fairly and honorably like what they often praised in songs. Instead, they huddled inside a giant rock cave, hiding behind a massive stone wall tens of yards thick. From the perspective of the Uruk-hai soldier climbing the slippery siege ladders, mankind appeared as a bunch of cowardly mice. They dared not look their enemies in the eye. Instead of engaging in swordplay, humans stood from above, safely behind loopholes, timidly raining down arrows piercing the throats of Uruk-hai brothers who had no cover. The outrage of the Uruk-hai reached its peak when they witnessed how humans defended. Humans call Uruk-hai barbaric because their weapons are crude. But where is the true barbarism when humans use the most despicable methods to cling to life? Rohan warriors pushed ladders full of men down the abyss, letting their opponents' bodies be crushed on sharp rocks. More horribly, they boiled cauldrons of searing hot oil and splashed it straight down onto the dense throng below. Boiling oil cooked the flesh of proud warriors, causing them to die in extreme agonizing writhing without being able to strike a single blow back. The surviving Uruk-hai saw Rohan soldiers, those who claimed to defend justice, roaring in delight upon seeing their enemies burned or crushed by boulders. The face of mankind at that moment twisted with bloodlust, fear, and a sickly pleasure of slaughtering without having to face risks. In the logical and straightforward mindset of the Uruk-hai, that is the pinnacle of hypocrisy. A true warrior kills enemies with muscle strength and sword skills, shielding oneself behind a stone wall to pour boiling water and throw rocks down on the heads of those at a disadvantage. That is not justice. That is the cruelty of weaklings pushed into a corner. Humans might call them monsters, but that night, at the Deeping Wall, the Uruk-hai realized that the true devil wore the face of mankind. After a long, bloody night of slaughter and climbing under a rain of venomous arrows, finally, the muscle strength and iron discipline of the Uruk-hai shattered the most stubborn defense lines. The thick oak gates splintered. The deeping wall was breached with explosives. The pride of mankind was crumbling under the ironclad boots of perfect warriors. The Uruk-hai were certain that, when the sun rose, they would plant the flag of the White Hand atop the fortress. But right at that moment of glory, mankind once again exposed the nature the Uruk-hai considered most cowardly, using magic to cheat. As the first light of the new day dawned, on top of the eastern hill, a massive cavalry army appeared. Leading them was Gandalf, the White, the wizard revered by humans as a savior. To the Uruk-hai soldier standing in the valley, the appearance of magic was not a great miracle. It was proof of weakness. When unable to defeat the Uruk-hai with physical strength and fair combat, humans had to call upon brutal supernatural forces to intervene in the battlefield. Look at how the Uruk-hai army faced the death, charging down from the hillside. Not a single panic-stricken scream, not a single one turning their back to run. From a purely military perspective, they demonstrated an astonishing discipline. Thousands of warriors simultaneously lowered their giant long pikes, forming a deadly thorny wall pointing straight up to the sky, ready to receive the cavalry charge. If this had been a fair fight, thousands of Rohan horses would have been skewered before managing to touch the Uruk-hai. But once again, humans did not fight fair. Gandalf used a cruel trick, utilizing the angle of the morning sun, combined with a blinding magical light from his staff, to strike directly into the retinas of tens of thousands of Uruk-hai warriors. The perfect army was blinded in the life-or-death moment. They could not see where their pikes were pointing. To the Uruk-hai, this action was as despicable as throwing sand into an opponent's eyes in a gladiator match. Mankind praised the Rohan cavalry's sweep as a brave act, a dazzling song of light. But what is brave about riding heavily armored, ton-weight beasts, charging down a slope and trampling blinded infantrymen? What happened next was not a battle. It was a brutal, one-sided massacre. The surviving Uruk-hai was knocked out of formation by the horrific collision. Around him, elite brothers had their chests crushed by iron hooves. Long pikes splintered under the weight of thousands of giant beasts charging down from the slope. Human cavalry swung swords, decapitating warriors who were staggering, clutching their blinded eyes. He saw the triumphant, gloating smiles on the faces of those who called themselves defenders of freedom. They roared in delight while slaughtering those unable to defend themselves. In that moment, the outrage within the Uruk-hai's heart overshadowed physical pain. These humans called themselves heroes, but they were ready to use magic to blind opponents, hide on the backs of giant beasts to trample infantry, and then arrogantly call it a glorious victory. The cruelty of humans did not lie in bloodlust instinct like orcs, but it lay in hypocrisy. They savagely slaughtered enemies yet always believed they were doing good. Saruman's perfect formation shattered, not because they lacked skill or courage, but because they were crushed by the physical weight of iron horses and the deceit of magic. The Uruk-hai and his remaining comrades had no choice but to retreat. They dragged their ruined bodies, heading towards the valley to find a way to live. But as they turned around, a breathtakingly chilling scene appeared. Where there should have been an open plain to retreat, a pitch-black, deep forest with giant trees bearing twisted roots had sprung up out of nowhere, blocking all escape routes. As the last ranks of Uruk-hai staggered retreating towards the valley, they realized something strange. The massive and ferocious Rohan cavalry force suddenly stopped. They no longer pursued. The Uruk-hai turned his head back through the leaves. He saw Rohan soldiers sitting on horseback, coldly lowering their weapons and standing watch. The face of humans at that time lacked the mercy of victors sparing the losers. It was the look of butchers watching panicked cattle willingly stick their heads into a slaughterhouse. At this moment, a terrifying truth struck the Uruk-hai warriors' consciousness. Humans knew well what was waiting inside that forest. They had deliberately planned it. They used cavalry to trample, used light to blind, not to slaughter entirely, but to herd the exhausted and disoriented Uruk-hai into a trap tens of thousands of times more cruel. The cruelty of mankind did not only lie in holding swords to stab and slash, but also in sinister plotting, borrowing the hands of other forces to execute extermination, while keeping their own hands clean of foul blood. This moving forest that sprang up overnight was not a collection of insentient plants. It was a pack of huarns, ancient creatures bearing the shape of trees, but possessing consciousness, wrath, and a thirst for flesh and blood. Men and elves affectionately called them tree shepherds, benign embodiments of nature. But to the Uruk-hai soldier trapped inside, that was the most deceitful and ridiculous definition. Nature was not benign at all. Nature was a giant, heartless, and bloodthirsty monster. The air inside the forest was thick with the smell of mold and tombs. Light was completely stripped away. For the first time since being born from the mud pits of Isengard, the perfect Uruk-hai warrior felt an emotion that Saruman's magic had deliberately erased: primal fear. The buzzing whispers emitting from the tree trunks were not language, but a telepathic wave carrying ancient hatred, piercing straight into the Uruk-hai's cerebral cortex. Branches twisted, closing all gaps. The darkness here did not protect them like the darkness of Mordor. The darkness here was alive, breathing, and hunting them. And then, the green slaughterhouse began to operate. Mankind kills with swords and spears, a quick metal death, piercing the heart or severing arteries. But these benign creatures of nature had no concept of that humanity. Their way of slaughtering prey was more savage and sick than any punishment in hell. Giant roots as thick as thighs slithered up from the muddy ground, wrapping tightly around ankles, snapping the bones of Uruk-hai warriors with sharp cracks. Giant branches reached down, grabbing their muscular bodies, lifting them into the air, then slowly, leisurely tearing their bodies in two, like someone tearing a dry leaf. The Uruk-hai saw his comrades, those who never flinched before a rain of arrows or swords, now screaming agonizingly as they were slowly crushed in the chest by giant wooden trunks. Iron and steel weapons were useless against bark as hard as boulders. No one escaped. The giant wooden monsters chewed, crushed, and buried thousands of Uruk-hai warriors deep underground in the cold earth, mercilessly using their flesh and blood as fertilizer. Outside, mankind stood with arms crossed, listening to the desperate screams echoing from the deep forest, and called it a victory of the light faction. The combination of human hypocrisy and the sick bloodlust of the old forest monsters created an unprecedentedly cruel spectacle, completely smashing the lives and pride of the Uruk-hai army. When the final screaming cries of thousands of Uruk-hai warriors were choked under the tree root boulders, Fangorn Forest sank back into a cruel silence. No birds singing, no bubbling streams, only the buzzing, chewing sound of the earth, slowly digesting the bones and flesh of an army that had once shaken all of Middle-earth. Lying gasping in the thick black mud, half his body twisted by insentient branches, the last Uruk-hai soldier blinked his murky eyes. He did not cry, for Saruman did not create tear ducts for his species. He did not pray. for the dark realm had no merciful gods. He just lay there, letting his final lucidity gnaw at a surging resentment. Outside the edge of that forest, where the sun was shining brilliantly, the noble humans of the kingdom of Rohan were singing. They planted their barely blood-stained swords into the ground, wiped sweat from their foreheads, and hugged each other in celebration. They called this a great victory of the light. They hailed the white-robed wizard as a benevolent savior. From deep in the darkness of the realm of death, a wordless indictment was uttered from the fading life of the Uruk-hai. Humans lie. Mankind calls themselves heroes, but their nature is cowardice, camouflaged under the guise of tactics and miracles. Saruman created Uruk-hai to fight and die like true warriors, using muscle strength, charging forward, fighting fairly and never looking back. But what about humans? Humans hide behind thick stone walls to pour boiling oil to cook enemies. Humans kneel before magic to blind those engaging in combat. Humans ride armored beasts to trample staggering infantry. And most despicably, humans herd retreating enemies into a slaughterhouse of nature, letting giant wooden monsters chew heads and break bones for them. Humans do every dirtiest trick to survive, borrowing the hands of demons to kill, then washing their own hands clean and stepping out into the light to beat their chests, claiming to be moral knights. The bloodlust of orcs, or Uruk-hai, is a naked, honest, and unhidden bloodlust. As for the cruelty of mankind, it is a poisoned blade wrapped in silk. They slaughter, destroy, trap systematically, yet convince themselves and the whole world that they are doing good. That is the ultimate devil. History is always written by survivors, under the pen of the victor. The Uruk-hai knew that, tomorrow, the chronicles of mankind would record the Battle of Helms Deep as a dazzling song. They would write that Uruk-hai were mindless, barbaric, and stupid monsters destroyed by courage. No one would write about thousands of warriors who proudly marched without knowing fatigue. No one would sing about the brave wall of pikes enduring iron hooves. And absolutely no human moral book would dare detail the way they pushed their opponents into a green hell of body-twisting brutality. The Uruk-hai drew his last breath. His muscular body sank completely into the bloody sawdust and roots. The monologue from the dark was forever buried. But if there were a soul brave enough to look down into the soil and rocks of Fangorn, they would find the thorniest truth of Middle-earth. Sometimes, the distance between a shining hero and a brutal monster is separated by exactly one lie of history. A truly dark and highly critical perspective, isn't it? What do you think about the hypocrisy of mankind in war from the perspective of the Uruk-hai army? History is always written by the victor. Are evil and good truly as clear as we always thought? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel to join us in continuing to decode the craziest, darkest, hidden corners of the mythological world. Goodbye, and see you in the next stories.